Hey, this is Jed with Ambient Array. I want to talk to you a little bit about how to understand your customers better through research. And I'm going to give a contrast between two methodologies that we like to use. Let's talk about the difference between an audience definition report or analysis and a survey. Okay. There's different kinds of information you can get from each of those. Those are both tools that we use all the time for our customers. And there's business to business and there's business to consumer, or we call B2B or B2C options. But right now, let's just talk about them in more general terms. So a survey is really good when you want to understand something very, very specific about the general market out there. In other words, people who may or may not know about your company, but you want to know something really specific about their opinions, their attitudes, their preferences, their behaviors. It's something that you would want to actually ask them directly because it's so specific. Okay. So if you want their opinion on something, or maybe you want to compare, hey, I've got these two creatives, these two posters I'm going to do, or two website designs. Hey, everybody, which one do you like better? You can actually design a survey around that. But it's around a very specific topic. So surveys are very specific. In fact, they get even more specific if you want to survey your own customers. So if you have a list of customers you've worked with in the past, you have their email addresses, you might want to send them a survey to ask them about how was your service? What was your experience with us? Or how did you like that product or service that we sold to you? Or why didn't you buy this thing that you were going to buy and didn't buy it? Those are all things that customer surveys are really, really good for getting really, like I said, hyper specific about something that you want to know how they think about your business, your services, your products. Okay. Those are surveys. Let's contrast that with an audience definition report. Now, audience definition reports can get actually very, very specific, but they're using what we call modeled data. Okay, so let me explain how that works. So with a typical audience definition report, you would bring me your customer list, and we would then append that list or add data to it based on the addresses in that list or based on other characteristics. Okay, but let's use the address example. Based on the addresses that we append, we can actually find out a whole lot of data, kind of an amazing amount of data about those households. Okay. Now, in the case of an audience definition report, we're not actually going to contact those individuals. It's not like a survey. We just happen to know that if we have their address, we have certain information that we can get about them, which is called their segment type. Once we know their segment types, we can then roll those up. We can look at so if you bring your list, and I look at all those segments in that list, I can roll those up into a report that says, wow, my customer tends to have these type of clients or these type of customers. And that becomes a segmentation report of sorts, where we're actually able to look at then things like psychodemographics. So psychographics is how do they think about the world in general? How do they look at things like consumption? What are their opinions about advertising? What are their opinions about politics? I mean, you could really name it. The other difference between that and the surveys is with the audience definition report, we're using databases that have already been created, but we're still building it on your own customer base. So the important thing to remember is with a survey, we're designing very, very hyper-specific questions that we then give to a particular audience, whether it be a market at large or whether it be your own customer list. With an audience definition report, we're not reaching out to anybody personally, but we're leveraging data that's already been researched about people, but we're building that report on your own customer list. So if I build an audience definition report for you, it's extremely unique. There are millions of possible combinations of those segments. So your report is still very much about your company, but the kind of information you get is more general in the sense that we're not actually finding out their opinions about things that specifically matter to you. Instead, we're building a profile on the types of people they are, how they think, age, income, lifestyle, family status, geographical status, like are they urban, are they rural, all those kind of things we can glean. So both types of reports have an enormous amount of information, but the time in which you would use them is going to vary quite a bit depending on what your purposes are. So we'd love to talk to you more about it. Reach out to me at ambientarray.com, fill out the web form, or just give us a call. Be happy to discuss that and figure out which one is right for you.